is anything. Because you know how it is. Oftentimes, the best part of a conversation happens before or after the record button is on. you know,
So often the
so
case.
yeah. All right. Yeah, I wanted to wear a cool hat today too, but I couldn't find my proper headphones for it. So anyway, um,
Well, it
so
comes to the territory if you're involved in holy grails, relic hunting, and ancient religious mysteries. You have to wear a hat. It's kind of compulsory.
yeah, no, it absolutely is, and well, that's kind of your signature hat right there. It's nice to see it in person, and well, Indiana Jones. You can actually buy perfect reproductions of the Indiana Jones hat by the company, by the guy who actually made them. You can get them in like beaver skin and then like or rabbit skin. They're a little cheaper, but you can actually like get fitted and you can actually get a official real Indiana Jones hat. But I think that'd be kind of a little bit trying too hard. I think you got to find an old hat and wear it out yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of a tradition because this stuff was the same way before Indy. I mean, Otto Rahn, the Nazi Grail hunter, rocks his fedora and looks great in his hat.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah, nor is he the only period relic hunter, Grail hunter to be dressed that way. And my buddy Hamilton White, who's a professional trader in religious relics and conflict antiquities. Um, just totally wears that hat all the time, and he had no interest in Indiana Jones. I had to actually strap him down and force him to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark just so he could know what I was talking about, and he
Oh, that's
still did.
amazing.
He still didn't get it. So I think it just comes in the trade for some reason. You spend too
Yeah.
much time slouching around Middle Eastern ruins, you end up, wearing a wide brimmed hat.
yeah. Well, just so people know, Richard Stanley, thanks for being on Radiant Creators. And Richard Stanley has a new book out recently, Otto Rahn, Grail Hunter, The Secret of the Cathars, and the Return of the White Lady. And so this book you can get it, of course, in Kindle. You can get the paperback version. And the Audible version is really well done. The person who read it, I thought it was you at first. I had to check because the person sounds like you. And I think they read it just perfectly. Are you happy with the Audible version that came out? Have you heard it?
I haven't actually heard the audio version, and I did volunteer to read it, but they said they were getting a professional audiobook reader to do it. So I'm glad they found somebody who could actually pronounce half of those names, because there's an awful lot of crazy pronunciation in there, a lot of German and French.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I thought it was you. So sorry about the dogs. We're having a little dog storm here. They'll they'll
Yeah,
they'll
I've
pass.
got a cat, which is who is here.
Oh, hey, cat. Oh, that's always a cat's favorite place. That's the official
Doozy.
podcast play. That's the official podcast cat.
So we're evenly matched. You got dogs, I got cats.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we like them both. We're both dog and cat people. So, um, well, so like I say, thanks for being on. And your book is really an experience to go through. And I have to admit, I knew of Otto Rahn, but I did not know really the whole story. I didn't until I saw you on Gordon with Gordon White and some other podcasts, and thought this is so great. Got the book. It's quite the experience. It's great. History to learn, and something that you put on your Facebook. One of the somewhat recent pictures when you were on site there um, at the how do you say it?
Montsegur, yeah.
Montsegur. Yeah, you were
But
actually
it's
at
Secure
Montsegur.
Mountain. It's very close to Mount Secure, Montsegur. It's the safe
Oh,
place. The word secure and secure really mean the same thing.
oh, Mount Segur. Well, perfect. Now I got it now. So this is you with Bill Sharp and Martin Capu at Chateau de Monsieur, and you put this little text with an image that you had posted on Facebook, and you said there are other worlds, better worlds, and our efforts on this embattled Earth should be devoted to either returning to them or bringing them here. And
Yeah, I
so,
think that's the essence of it.
Yeah. Okay.
We have the right to demand a better world than the one we've currently got, and we've certainly got the ability to make that a possibility. It's just through our sheer bloody mindedness as a species that we're kind of not sorting it out. But I think that ought to be our a general priority. And better worlds have existed in the past, and I'm sure better worlds will exist in the future. Generally, as a things to do for 2026 on my freezer door is try to bring paradise here and make this a better place.
Yeah, and so it seems like you've really dedicated yourself to that, because you're actually living, I guess, kind of in the shadow of Mount Segura now, right?
Yeah, I mean, the book is the product of a 30-year inquiry that initially started as an inquiry into the Nazi archaeological department, the SS's archaeological group, and to what extent they really did look for relics like the Ark of the Covenant, the Spear of Longinus, or the Holy Grail before the war. So I was dispatched to Europe on that mission, I think, in summer of 1990 by Channel 4 television. And along the way got onto the trail of Otto Rahn, the German Jewish Grail hunter, who ended up, to his detriment, working for the Unabridged SS. And in the course of kicking the tires on Otto's story, I went to the places he described and took a close look at what he was alleging in his book, and found it to be true. The deeper I went into it, the more I realized that Otto was not in any ways making it up, that these places really exist, and the occult history that he was unpacking in his first book is, it was a genuine tradition, a genuine hidden history. So this gave me the yen to try and rescue Otto's research from the mass grave of Nazi pseudoscience, to basically translate the material and make it accessible. At the point I started, Otto's work was only available in original German and in limited editions, and he was very much a footnote to a footnote, a marginal history figure in the history of the German Reich. So I wanted to rehabilitate his work, and I think that whatever supernatural force seems to be at work in the castle of Montsegur, I think it really liked Otto. And I think it was in some strange ways grateful to me for having rescued the material, and to have gone back in time to try to make sense of what happened back in the 1930s. And as a result, I found myself welcomed in Montsegur. And although I began the journey as a very much on the fence, if not basically an atheist, along the way, the events began to stack up, which I think is chronicled within the book. It's as much the synchronicity and the layering of coincidence when two things happen at the same time. Gradually over the course of the 30-year quest, I found myself, I guess, becoming a believer, being gradually drawn to the castle. In 2007, I witnessed an apparition in the castle, which was I was accompanied by another witness. Neither of us were drunk or under the influence of anything, and this really out in my face supernatural manifestation was the last straw that convinced me to give up my apartment in London and to effectively give up my life in the outside world and move full-time to Montsegur to basically serve the castle in whatever way I can, which propelled me into a series of insane confrontations and battles, which then took up pretty much the next 10 years, because wherever there's great good, there's also great evil. And whenever you reach for the Grail, the very next thing you generally hear is the sound of a gun being cocked as someone standing behind you demands that you hand over the relic. For whatever reason, Montsegur is constantly besieged by the forces of darkness in any number of crazy ways.
Yeah. And so in chapter 19 of your book, it's called, the coming of the White Lady. And so and of course there is a documentary that you made. I think it's one thing, we looked that up. Just what was the title of that? It was
It's the other
called,
world.
yes, The Other World. And so there's an amazing documentary that you made that kind of covers the the placement of Montsegur. And when you watch the documentary, you realize, like, wow, there's, of course, and this goes, with sacred sites all over the world, but you realize that it goes beyond chance. This thing was made, its location is very deliberate, and then you kind of cover your experience that you had there. And so you actually experience now in the timeline of your research, like, when did that event actually happen, when you were, I guess you could say, you met the White Lady?
It's the last event detailed in the book,
Yeah.
which is 2007. So that's over a decade ago. And events have moved on considerably, but I decided to end the book there for all kinds of reasons. Beyond all else, it's very difficult to write about events that are taking place in the present day without being slammed by a miasma of legal actions, given some of the forces that we've been up against out here. And the last 15 years or so since moving here, it would warrant a book on its own right, and probably will be one day once it's outside the statute of limitations and I'm allowed to talk about it. And it's certainly been an eye-opener. In terms of how it fell together with the Rahn research, the earliest material in the book is written in 1990. And when I first go to France, and I tried to leave the original material as unaltered as possible. So at the beginning I was chasing after Otto, and I guess between 1990 and 1998 I was pretty hard-nosed about it. 98 was when we found the bleeding stones, and we realized that they really were stones that bled, which were not from planet Earth. These meteoric debris or meteoric artifacts, which somehow made out of a form of hyperdense iron, but so dense that it doesn't rust or tarnish, but secretes a ferrous solution, 99% pure iron, which looks exactly like blood. This lapis or lapsit excelus, the stones from the sky, I'd heard about, but until I actually saw them and got samples in 1998, I didn't really believe it. From the time that the stones turned up, I guess I started to budge from my skeptical on the fence position. But it wasn't until another 10 years or so, until 2007, that I finally basically gave up. Said, okay, you win to the castle. What do you want? Came here full time.
And so, do you think that, like you mentioned, that the castle liked Otto Rahn, and it liked your research, you reviving it, going a bit deeper than what people commonly knew? Because Otto Rahn wrote the two books that he wrote, but I did not know of them. I heard of your work, so you're kind of taking the next step. And um, do you think that Otto Rahn had an experience with the White Lady as well? I mean, did the castle like him that much?
Well, I don't really. I still. I can't say for sure what the White Lady is, and but it would seem to me that it's a manifestation of some pure light or supernatural force that's been here since pre-human times, and it seems to be able to individuate into people, in particularly historic personages. And it's not just a purely supernatural force. It seems like there's people in there who were people once, or parts of identities. I think in the time of Rahn, when Otto was on the mountain, there was a real sense that the Cathar prophecy was at hand, that the world was going to change, that we were on the verge of the effectively the age of Aquarius, of a spiritual awakening. And of course, that didn't happen. They had World War II instead. But in the run up to that, there were an awful lot of what would be now considered New Age people, then Theosophists, channelers, Rosicrucians, and people who were believed they were in touch with these spiritual forces. Spiritualism was still a thing, and the Lady of Montsegur was extremely active in the in the 1930s. I don't know how long she's existed as a myth, as something folkloric. I mean, when I first read about her in a book, it was very much a folkloric sense of an immortal ghostly figure who is still seen in the ruins of the tower that faces north. But by golly, there she was, exactly in the spot where the book said she was. And I guess she was turning up a lot back then.
And you experienced her not as a ghostly figure, but as a physical presence, as if she was, a physical, being standing there. You could hear her footsteps, right?
Yeah, she was shockingly real, and we heard her footsteps even before she turned up in the room, which we initially thought there were people walking around the outside of the castle. And then even after she disappeared out of the room, we could still hear her crunch, crunch, crunch her boots as she walked away down some passageway that didn't exist in our world, and she did it so casually that it didn't. For her, she was just walking down a passageway, but nonetheless, clearly she had weight and mass, and some of the presences on the Pog are certainly very. The Pog is what we call a mountain, by the way. It's a Occitan word for something that's taller than a hill but smaller than a mountain. Puig is a peak, and a Pog is what Montsegur is. And it seems to be not only a sort of a nexus point for cosmic and possibly telluric energies, but it feels like any number of worlds potentially intersect there in different forces and presences, and say a very highly active location, and often those things land with a physicality that's pretty shocking. It feels like maybe other rooms in the castle, or other timelines, or other paradigms are very thinly interlaid, and like sometimes it's sometimes of the year rather than others as well, which is weird. It responds to it's stronger at certain times of the year, and totally faint at other times, and then boom, suddenly it does it again. Often it's some of the bits feel almost like completely random events, which have been somehow caught up in the field of the place, like somebody banging a nail into a piece of wood 7 centuries ago. Yet all of us hear hammer and nails at a certain point in the castle, and we've stood there for hours hearing this tack, 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 the hammer and nail sounds coming from just a corner of the rocks and the scrub at night, different echoes, sticks tapping on the battlement, these things which might have been totally casual in another world, but which are somehow caught in this constant repeat, so that you hear them over and over again, and people have been hearing some of these spooks for centuries. I mean, I've had friends and tourists report things from like the tapping stick on the front wall and coming down the steps in the courtyard, which you can find reported 100 years ago in written accounts that our present-day tourists are completely unaware of. They're odd little recurrent phenomena in the mountains full of them.
Yeah, there are places, I mean, it can happen anywhere, but there are places that are powerful in that way. Maybe it's because of its location, it's a very strategic location it's at. I mean, there's powerful places, and it sounds like you've just got, as I think of it, as timelines. You've just got multiple timelines, many converging, and the veil between them is very thin. And so you can hear somebody hammering, a very iron nail back in 1244.
Yeah,
Seems
that's
like.
the thing. I don't even think they're necessarily significant moments in the past, which is
Yes.
odd. It's almost like day-to-day work and things going on in the castle courtyard, which now feel like they're muffled and coming from another room. And there's also an odd sense sometimes that they might be able to hear us, which
Yes.
is a funny thing. Like I was sitting up in the dark in the courtyard one night, and I saw a guy who'd climbed up the mountain, just arrived, coming in the door, and he was super tired, and he threw down his pack, and the frying pan in the back of it hit a rock and made this big dang sound. And as he did
Yes.
that, any number of spooks and shadows in the courtyard seemed to move. And I thought, hang on, you scared something. But yeah,
Oh, it's amazing.
yeah, what did you scare? He didn't even notice, but I didn't notice the other thing was there until I saw the the
Oh,
movement.
wow.
Yeah, to the sound effect. So I think
Mm.
they hear us in the other world sometimes too, and think that we're the ghost, and it's quite odd and confusing. But it's just some kind of ripple effect. I'm sure we understand only the outermost part of it. To some extent, these things seem to be made out of pure light, but I'd also note in the account how the animals all went strange. The cows all started lowing just before the white lady arrived. We already were giggling at the point we saw the apparition because the sound all the cows were making in the field down below.
Yeah.
And they did the same afterwards, and it feels like they're responding to something, like electromagnetic pulse, or on some level they're aware of what's going on. It's the same with the
Yes.
owls. It's not a coincidence. Those things are happening at the same time for a reason. The toads mass on top of the mountain when the moon is full, and even without the white lady, just having the owls hooting and the bats and the toads and the whole ambience already is pushing into something extremely otherworldly. So Monster Gore captured my heart. I got down on my knee in front of I bent the knee to the lady, and I swore myself to her service and to the castle. And as a result, then spent the next 10 years defending the place.
So, and the cows that were, carrying on, which cows do, when there's some reason to do it, cows can be quite clamorous. People who haven't been around cows don't know, but they can make a lot of noise. And so they actually formed a circle after that event, which was definitely unusual.
when we came out of the tower room afterwards, we looked down and we were standing in a circle in the field, which was just another little touch, I guess, to make fun of our sense of what was real, and they were still all making a terrible noise.
Oh, ah,
And the sound was echoing around because of the crazy alpine acoustics of the place. Montsegore's got goofy acoustics. So you
mm,
can be up on the front battlement of the castle and you can hear conversations people are having way down on the road below. And at the same time, someone can be yelling your name a few feet away and you don't hear it. You don't hear it at all. So
mm.
in the mountains, you do get some wacky distortion. Yeah, they were so loud that eventually somebody came with a flashlight down below, and we heard a French lady's voice saying "LA, LA," and they were shining the flashlight at the cows, which then broke up and stopped being a circle, and went back to being regular cows. It was just
Mm.
fully surreal, but I think triggered by whatever was going on at the
Yes,
time. Um, but,
yes,
um,
yeah, and places like that, if people have experienced them, it doesn't seem that well as out of place. Like, we're very close to Sedona up the road, Sedona, Arizona, and you know, not that I'm not giving it a hard time, but Little Sedona, I mean, it's become overrun, right? The Sacred Hills now have houses on them and things, but we've been experiencing it for a long time. And if you go off the beaten track, the whole place, it has an extraordinary amount, and you can see veins of quartz, of crystals in the rock. And so, you know, part of why it's such a like scalar interface from the earth to our ionosphere to our magnetosphere, like why it's this portal is, it goes like a mile deep, amazing amounts of crystals in the red rock. So, but when you're there, there's, like I say, it can happen anywhere. It can happen in a new age store, but I mean, especially when you're off the beaten track, time can get weird. There's areas that, we'll tell people to visit or we'll go with them, and you never want to lead their experience, but there's places where time always gets messed up. There's places like that where the clouds look geometric when you're there. They don't look, and it's neat to, realize that is like a shared experience. And so, you know, being around places like that, it's not necessarily always easy, is it? I mean, I'm sure it's got to be glorious and amazing, but does it ever get a little bit like kind of a workout? You're sort of living life in a place that has its own synchronicity, its own timelines. It's like, does it cause you like to wipe sweat off your brow sometimes and go, oh, it's weird?
Yeah, and I think it's pretty much almost broken me over the years.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
been an extreme workout, and it's turned my life upside down, inside out, back to front, over and over again, and has consistently demonstrated the futility of things to me. Um, and, yeah, it's been an amazing series of problems and issues that continue to escalate into the present day. Because beyond all else, the base issue here is that Montsegur was the place where the last of the Cathars took refuge, and the Cathars were a proto-Christianity that a possibly earlier form of Christianity that the Holy Roman Church and the Crusaders felt the need to genocidally exterminate and completely vaporize all trace of. Whatever reason, the folk who wiped out the Cathars are kind of still active, and that
Yes.
force still doesn't want anyone to know about this, and it's still it's brutal. It's still trying to erase the Cathars still in the present day, which is what's freaky and scary. Where there's great goodness, great evil exists, and Montsegur exists, but the force that opposes it exists too. That's brought me into conflict and into situations that I had no idea even existed before.
Mm.
It seems like one thing leads to another, to another, to another. Brief example, the earliest phase of the Montsegur conflict was over a theme park operation, Project Montsegur, that was going to turn Montsegur into effectively a French theme park attraction. And they wanted to electrify the castle, which we couldn't allow to happen because we felt that if the castle was electrified, it would fuck up whatever was going on up there. So about 5 or 6 years was spent fighting the electrification of Montsegur. Now, in the present day, the entire area is a dark skies zone, and it's this small measure was achieved on my watch. And Project Montsegur effectively petered out. When it did so, that just led to a situation where effectively, to offset debts, the commune of Montsegur, under the leadership of the mayor Robert Finance, ceded mineral rights to a subsidiary of Rio Tinto, a mountaintop mining concern that proceeded to then start running the Dune Avatar Fern Gully plotline, where they discovered vast deposits of a hitherto unidentified mineral element, a molecule called Imrus, HARG, underneath the Tabor, the Holy Mountain, got the mineral rights. So the next thing, there was a multinational mining company wanting to effectively vaporize the Holy Mountain in order to extract a beauty product, a force that was a perfect combination of greed and vanity, yet powerful enough to potentially vaporize the Holy Mountain. So it's amazing how this beast has come at us in different ways. We've been trying to get the Montsegur recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and through vigorous campaigning, it's made it as far as the UNESCO shortlist. And in a strange detail, UNESCO now says that they'll only recognize Montsegur as a full UNESCO World Heritage Site if the C word, Cathar, is removed from the signage. For some reason, at a very high level, they don't want the Cathars mentioned. There's been a move on the internet and at a fairly high level to try to insist that the Cathars did not exist. This is partially because of the name itself, which admittedly was not a name that they used to call themselves, but more of an insult or a name used by crusaders and witch hunters in later generations. But the issue being pushed by from the top in academia in France is this notion that the Cathars did not exist. UNESCO is kind of backing that by suggesting that they will recognize the site, but only if this inconvenient detail of the past's Cathar history is not mentioned in the signage, which I think again is just that same force which has worked since the beginning to try to erase the Cathars from history. It now works through cancel culture and through UNESCO and through all the different economic forces, but it still wants to erase all trace of this inconvenient history.
Yeah. It's like all of history and the future that we don't see, we experience. It's like the battles happening, the same battle of like 1244 is happening today, and it seems like one thing maybe that you become aware of in sacred sites like that is, and with the experiences you've had, is that at least as I experience reality, is that there really are greater angels and demons, and there is a conflict. There is something going on, and then there's places where you experience that conflict, that battle. And it seems like you kind of got knighted by the White Lady to defend the castle, basically. and you're within a very large architecture of angels and demons.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just the. I mean, she was the and is the really the only supernatural force that's ever actually showed me its face and looked me in the eyes. So there's that. But at the same time, it wasn't entirely her fault, because I knew a little bit about Occitan history, and before the fall of Occitania, which was the original country that was here at the time of the Cathars, which was obliterated from the map, it was possible to become a knight. You could ennoble yourself by
Yes.
swearing yourself to the train of a noble lady or a noble lord. A serf could still become a knight. It wasn't by blood alone, as it became in later centuries. But there was still some possibility of movement between the classes, and it was possible in Occitan times in the 12th to the mid 13th century to ennoble yourself by bending the knee and swearing yourself to the train of a great house. So I thought, if this is an authentic time slip, or if this really is the high priestess Esclamont de Foix, then now's my chance. So by bending the knee and swearing myself to her, I thought, well, it could be a loophole in history, but it's possibly my best chance to ennoble myself under the circumstances. I took off my hat and bent the knee to her.
Mm. Wow. Well, it worked. So yeah, that's amazing.
It may
And
have been the fault of the hat as well. I often think that.
yeah.
I was wearing a very particular hat that night. It was in fact, the hat was the former property of a man named Lord Dunsany, who was an
Oh
Anglo
wow.
writer who had written a book called The King of Elfland's Daughter, and I'd been given Dunsany's hat by his niece. So the hat I took off to her was Dunsany's hat, the guy who wrote The King of Elfland's Daughter, and to some extent the good lady, the White Lady, is the Queen of the Elves, and she is the true sovereignty of the land. So the hat itself might have helped make that whole encounter possible.
Wow.
But I also I seized the opportunity to basically swear myself to the lady, and I've been grateful for it, because even though the last 15 years have been nightmarish beyond belief at times, it's also throughout I've never lost a sense that she's protected me,
Mm.
that we are protected here in the zone, given everything that we need. So I'm super grateful for that.
And that book is called The King of Elfland.
The King of Elfland's Daughter by
Daughter.
Lord
Okay.
Dunsany. It's a pre-Tolkien fantasy novel
Okay.
that folk don't return to enough. Dunsany knew a few things about the Fae, about the other world. The
And you've come to have a belief. No, I mean I do, right? So, um, a belief in fairies, then, like that world. I think I've heard you reference that the fairies are something that the fae are something that you experience where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, an awful lot of things seem to be, you could chalk up to ultra dimensional
Hmm.
interference in human affairs. I mean, there's not a huge difference between little people and aliens. And Lovecraftian things. It seems pretty clear to me that there are other dimensions, other levels going on in planet Earth, which we're not
Yes.
able to perceive most of the time, but are happening right around us. I mean, things that are not from another planet, but have always been an immediate part of our physical environment, but they're just happening on a different vibrational frequency, like different channels on a television. Super strange. But I think potentially all those things are possible. I mean, and certainly it gets very easy to believe in fairies and goblins when you're when you're out here long enough, because they do seem to be around. And I think they cluster around the place. It's like the mountain is a beacon or a light. If it's the Queen of the Elves, then her courtiers surround her. There's any number of different presences. I mean, some are ghosts, some are echoes from another time, but some have never even been human. So some are elemental things, or things that I can't even imagine in this dimension. They feel more like, I'm not a clairvoyant, so I don't often see things, but I hear things, and things move, vibrations move through the air, and sound like cell phones vibrating. You know, something went past, but what?
Yes. Oh, I get it. And and place can help one, experience that, because I would say that, they're everywhere, but, walking down the paved street of a city, not so much. You may experience that, but, I feel like I've been to some magical places, and having lived in magical places, like, I lived in the Pacific Northwest here in America, and lived in Seattle, and then had to have the hat, but up the street, you're an old growth forest. You're an ancient forest. I mean, it's huge and it goes on forever. And so to experience, fae or fairies or elementals or spirits of the nature, guardians of the forest, like when you go out there, for me, it was easy to understand how some vast expanses of forest were still there, because you can feel the guardians when you walk in. And if you bow to them, basically, then they'll protect you. They'll I don't know if I'd call it protection, but they'll appreciate you. You'll have a better time if you're respectful, you know. So it seems like you get along there because you respect them. You acknowledging their presence. If you can feel them, then they like you. I tend to think.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the whole experience very much changed for me after 2007, when I saw the apparition,
Yeah.
because up to that point I was still scared. I was alternating between fear and skepticism.
Mm.
Like, I'd either be able to dismiss what was going on as being my imagination, or if I couldn't quite, then it would make me uneasy and frightened. Whenever that factor X started creeping in, it's like, okay, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
So it wasn't until, I guess, 2007 that I was able to put a face to the force,
Yes.
and realized that whatever it was that we were on the same side, that we were effectively the part of the same stuff. I mean,
Yes.
it was akin to meeting my mother, or
Mm.
my sister, and a strong sense of belonging. And after that, the Montsegur lost its terrors for me, so I adopted a much more relaxed attitude towards the different ongoing phenomena, and have relaxed into it.
Oh.
I'm pleased to say it's ongoing. That I was up there all night on the last full moon. It was one of the best nights of my life. It was absolutely fantastic. So it's still
Oh,
life.
yeah. Oh, I love it. I get it. Oh, I get it. Um, I think, even though it would be very, you know, living in such a place, I think anybody who could feel it would definitely be envious to some extent, because um, there's a big difference between going to a place and experiencing it and then living there. That changes the dimension of it, greatly. Um, so you've had experience with the bleeding stones, and in the book you talk about So you came across the bleeding stones, and that was a moment of, whoa, these things are more than I can necessarily rationally explain, and they have healing properties. And you actually had uh, used those to heal two different people in different situations. And so, can you tell? Can you speak to that experience a little bit, like what that experience was, as far as like these stones are not, these aren't possible, what's going on? And then also, you've actually experienced the healing properties that they are historically said to have.
Yeah, it turned out to be exactly as they were as described in the textbook, which yeah, came as a big surprise given that they were supposed to be mythological. When yeah, mythological power objects and things turn up, it causes all kinds of issues. And I've got only very few pieces of them left now, because over the years I've given samples to the British Museum, to the BBC, to people at Cambridge, to so many different laboratories. And still to date, we don't know what they are, which
Ah,
is. But yeah, it remains. They remain unplaced in the periodic table, or the taxonomy of known elements. The
mm,
mountaintop mining concern that want to vaporize the tabor, they're after another hitherto unidentified mineral element. So such things do exist, and one day I'd very much like to get a proper spectrographic analysis of the Godeb stones
yeah,
and find out, yeah, what they are. But yeah, and as for the healing virtues of them, that would seem to be the case. But I got to presage that by saying that the placebo effect is a thing, and reality is often what we make it to be. But nonetheless, I did have a couple of remarkable examples of it. One of which was my mother, who had been diagnosed with terminal lymphoma and had cancerous growths behind her eyes. She was an artist and a painter, and the thought of cutting her eyes out didn't really appeal. So I put meteor blood in her eyes, and she went into remission. So, which I wouldn't want to make any claims for it, but it would see it had the desired effect. I guess that was part of my personal quest, in that the Parsifal myth, the base Grail myth, is all about Parsifal basically not doing what his mother tells him to do, and mom dying as a result. So I guess at least playing out that scene and having it work out for the better, worked for
yeah,
my quest. I had my mum for another 10 years after that.
that's amazing. And yeah, the Parsival stones, and that really, I had some notes on that. There they went. Yeah, so I mean, that is like really extraordinary, and you touch on it in the book, of course. I mean, you talk about it, but I mean, Parsival being, a knight of the Round Table, he was not, I think, originally nobility, and then he became a knight. And the Parsival stones, I forget how the actual stones were related to him in the myth, in the stories, or is like,
Well, yeah, Parsifal is raised at a distance from Arthur's court in the wilderness of Soltane, but in fact he does have noble blood through his father Garmere, who
hmm,
turns out to be a knight after all. But he doesn't know that. He's raised in ignorance of the knights by his mum, who makes him promise to never have anything to do with knights. And of
hmm,
course he falls under the influence of the Black Knight Gurneymans, who teaches him all of the wrong things, notably this notion that a knight never asks questions. And
yes,
when Parsifal goes to the Castle of the Grail, he fails to ask the right question and fails to achieve the Grail, and muffs his job, and then is forced to wander for years and years and fight any number of battles. And in the course of this, comes into the cave of the hermit Trebrizond. In the this is going from Wolfram von Eschenbach's Parsifal, the second Parsifal. It's a complicated story, but Trevisan the hermit lives in the cave of the wild fountain, Fontenay de Sauvage, and he's described as a hermit who eats neither flesh nor fowl, so effectively a vegetarian. He enlightens Parsifal about the true state of the world. It tells him the tale of the fall of Lucifer and the rebel angels, and tells him the tale of the stones from the sky. These the lapis seals, which is also called the Grail, the black bleeding stone, which comes from Wolfram's Parsifal. So Otto identified this cave Fontenay de Sauvage with a cave called Fontenay, in the Ariège, which also has an underground river with a phreatic source, which causes the underground river to rise and fall irregularly, giving a strong sense that the cave is alive, but also the reason for the name of the Wild Fountain. He believed that, like the Cathars, who were vegetarians, and believed that all life was effectively sacred, and that this was in fact the cave. Then lo and behold, black stones, meteoric stones identical to the ones in the Parsifal myth, were retrieved from the cave. The lower areas of the cave are currently sealed by the French government. There have been various attempts to break into the caves over the last few years.
Wow, that definitely illuminates the story. And
there are physical relics in this world, as well as it's a funny thing. It's like the Grail is certainly a spiritual goal. It's something like I think if anything, it represents the possibility of the harmonization of opposites, of the marriage of the sun and the moon, like Christ and Mary Magdalene, the possibility of balance, of peace. It manifests on Earth in all kinds of forms. There's any number of holy grails flying around Europe.
It does,
all of which are genuine holy grails. So it's not like they're all phony cups. There's lots of very rare grails which certainly seem to have supernatural powers. And our Pyrenean Grail happens to be made of meteoric iron, but I wouldn't want to look down on the Cup of Valencia, and there's no doubt a Cup of Abraham, and there's a whole bunch of Templar treasure floating around at the moment that's been causing a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes me wonder, was that the stone that Excalibur was pulled from? And could that be a metaphorical meaning as well? But yeah, and that's the thing where and we'll talk. Yeah, it's, with Rom, I sometimes, so he was, working for the Ananeba, and from what I understand, not to change topic quickly, so Rom was working for the Ananeba, and that was Himmler's sort of occult search, and also looking for a kind of a Teutonic mythology, maybe like editing what really exists into their purpose. But from what I understand of Himmler, if you were asked to work for the Ananeba, and you were, especially somebody with a background that was possibly Jewish, and you were gay, you just didn't say no to Himmler, especially if you had a past, if you had a reality that could get you killed. So, I mean, when Himmler said, hey, we can use this guy, I need you to be part of the Ananeba to find relics to help, create the mythology that I want. It wasn't like Otto Rahn could really say no, I don't think.
I think that, Otto had almost no choice. In the end, he tries to say no, but he attempts to resign from the SS and attempts to flee Germany, and dies on the German-French border, I think, trying to get away. So I think when he realized too late just how terrible a bargain he had made. And I don't think he could have refused it. It was where there's great goodness, there's always great evil, and Otto's initiatory trail goes straight off a precipice. Takes him straight to hell, and certainly the things he saw in Dachau and Buchenwald left him a broken man. But to his credit, he wrote about it. He wrote his complaining letters to Himmler's personal adjutant. To use Otto Rahn's words, it is no longer possible for a tolerant, decent man to live in the country that my homeland has become. He was clearly saw what Nazi Germany was becoming, and attempted to flee it.
Do we have those letters? Do any of those letters exist today, or are they, of Rome that he wrote?
Yeah, everything that he wrote to Himmler's personal adjutant exists.
It still exists. That'd be amazing to see. Wow.
Yeah, that's all there. Karl Wolff was Himmler's personal adjutant, also the man who wrote his obituary. The Nazis were sticklers for bureaucracy and keeping records. So a little bit like the Inquisition. So as a result, we do have some of the correspondence and some of the paperwork, enough to get a broad sense of what happened. I mean, and also it would seem that Heinrich Himmler had a big interest in the occult and magic, but far more so than Hitler, who didn't seem to be honestly that interested in any of it. But Himmler's interest was largely coming from this rune mage character, Himmler's Rasputin, this Nazi Crowley character, who's it was a guy named Karl Maria Willigut, who styled himself as Weistor, the wise warrior. This aging rune mage made a big impression on Heinrich Himmler. Told him to buy the Schloss Wewelsburg and to restore it to the Order Castle. He's also responsible for designing the Totenkopf ring and putting the runes on the uniforms. So and was also the nut job who was trying to do away with Christmas, bring back the Yule traditions, and it was all kind of the influence of Willigut, the rune mage, who fell from power the same month that Otto Rahn flees Germany and dies on the border. Otto was hired on directly on Willigut Weistor's insistence. And I think for a period of time, a sort of Luciferian magical cell existed within the SS that became powerful in around 1938, 1939. And then I believe another faction within the SS of straight up Christian soldiers came to resent the creepy gay occult nut jobs who were being promoted above them. The creepy stuff they were up to, and along with in association with Martin Bormann's office, I believe they started to gather evidence against them. But eventually, it reached a point in 1939 when they were able to bring him down, and the entire department was basically purged. Willigut was removed from power, and Rahn died on trying to get back to France. So, and then during the war itself, it feels like Heinrich Himmler loses interest in the occult largely. I mean, despite having created the Schloss Wewelsburg, the work is never finished on the castle. And only one meeting is ever taken at the Round Table during Operation Barbarossa. Whatever was going on in the north tower again of the castle. It was never completed. There's a disused gas faucet in the center of the tower, which presumably would have been for an eternal flame. And presumably the 12 plinths would have been where the ashes of the 12 Obergruppenführers would have been interred. But the work was never completed. And I think after the rune mage was removed, Himmler became more sensible.
Yeah.
Took a step away from that stuff.
Also, with I thought the Unabridged kind of existed throughout until like 45 or so, but it was done about 39 then. It was.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
it feels like I see no evidence to really suggest anyone actually looking for a Holy Grail or an Ark of the Covenant during the war, as depicted in the Indiana Jones movies.
Yeah.
It feels like they were really going for it in the mid to late 30s. But then by the time the war arrived, a lot of that stuff was swept aside, and also very few occultists survived the purges. I mean, most folk like Otto Rahn or Hannelson, the clairvoyant, were dead by the time the war started. Most of the clairvoyant psychics and rune mages and sorcerers who were around in the 30s did not make it through what came afterwards.
Yeah.
World War II was not kind to occultists.
No, no, no. And so it does seem that like the rings that Himmler fashioned, for the elite SS, they seem to make it through the war, and then they were collected when that officer died. And it there are relics, having held some and seen some relics like that. I mean, I having seen and felt one of the rings, and also one of the ceremonial daggers that was made at that time, because German steel is like the best in the world, so when you feel this. Oh, you got one.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That is a well, it is a dark treasure. How about that? That is a beautiful treasure. I mean, that is amazing. And having felt one of those and handled it along with one of the rings, which was a rare thing that somebody else had, I felt, but I just felt this. I had to put it down. I hung out with it, but it was like, vroom, vroom, and I went, "This is alive," and I'm just going to give it back to you. Thank you for letting me experience that. Yeah.
Cheeky shit. I mean,
Yes.
the 12 Obergruppenführers were like Tolkien's ring wraiths with these
Yes.
12
Ooh.
rings. And as in my book, in Grail Hunter, I think it points out that on the back of the rune of the rings, there's Willigut Weistor's personal rune, which is a
Yes.
bind rune, a bint rune, to bind you to the order. When you have that line in Lord of the Rings, one ring to bind them, and in the darkness find them. So it's a bind rune to bind you forever to the circle. Creepy. And beyond
Yes.
the Schloss Wavelsburg's a terrifying place. It was creepy long before the Nazis even got there. It was the seat of the witch hunters in the Dark Ages, and in the underneath the Wavelsburg is the Hexenkeller, where they tortured the witches. So long before the Nazis got there, the place was already bad to the bone. So the amount of negative energy in that in the apex of that north-facing tower is considerable, and it's. In Tolkien terms, the sense of of Montsegur being the White Castle on the mountain with the guardian of the Grail, and the Schloss Wavelsburg, the seat of the Nazis and witch hunters. It sure feels like something that's come direct from J.R.R. Tolkien. It's yet fully real. It's a creepy place. It stands to this day. It's a youth hostel now, so you can actually spend the night there.
Oh wow. I would do it, wow. So it's just like straight up Mordor, basically. And the ring wraiths. And I just wanted to I made a note. What was that? If anybody's looking for a band name, Meteor Blood. There you go. Something that we said. But so the thing with well, with the search for relics, I mean, I do think that they were looking for the spear of destiny as well. The Nazis were, and I think that they took something out of a museum. I think it was in France that they believed was it. I think, or so, but it obviously didn't work because it didn't make them invincible in battle. So, but you know, and I guess that was the thing was at the time there was like arguments about well whether the spear of destiny that pierced Jesus, whether that even existed. And I think there was three different ones in three different museums, and either they got the right one and it doesn't work, or they got the wrong one, or who knows. But you know, just the fact that they went after it, I think is I've always thought was very interesting. You know, I mean, it could have just been a trophy, like Hitler was like, "I've got it now, haha," or maybe they believed it would make them invincible. I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit of both. You know. Um, so
Yeah, it's
yeah,
hard to know. I mean, all of these things have a symbolic value, but they're also from the standpoint of the Nazis, the standpoint of the present day powers that be. These things also function as potential archetypes or symbols that can
yes,
motivate genocide or motivate a war. I mean, Otto Rahn's research was basically co-opted to become part of the underpinnings of the ideological underpinnings of the genocide. And the main thing I think that that the Nazis saw in Otto's research beyond the cup, and the main problem to this day, and the reason why they're still trying to erase the Cathars from history and even from the signage, is the core heresy, the base thing, that disagreement between the so-called Cathars and the Holy Roman Church, which is the argument that we're living inside an illusion, inside a three-dimensional construct, that our consciousness actually is downloaded into this place from somewhere else, that we are not part of this place, that our souls are here on planet Earth, and that Yahweh, Jehovah, the creator god, deity that created planet Earth, and allegedly in 7 days, it did not create our souls or our consciousness, which exists outside of this place and beyond the limits of time and beyond this place. And that seemed like the main issue, because I can see an evil light bulb going on over Heinrich Himmler's head. I mean, in real life, the Cathars were pacifists and vegetarians, but I'm sure what the Nazis saw it was like, so the Jews are worshipping the wrong god.
mm-hmm.
And this part of it, I think, was very useful to Nazi ideology. And I think this particular little wrinkle in the skin continues to kill people to the present day. It's an awkward issue as to what once one steps through the door into a world where there's more than one god.
Yeah, it gets yeah. Well, the Cathars, when I learn about the Cathars in Occitania, and I can't help but like them, and
Well, they're incredibly likable in terms of
yeah,
the number of very good ideas that they had before their time. I mean, equal rights being one of them. Nice that children could take their mother's surnames. That women up to the mid 13th century could inherit land, command armies, and officiate as priests. But also the recognition that all living things have sparks of the divine within them, and that animals are other living beings. It seems like a very base idea that would have made this world a better place if people could have just taken that on board earlier.
yeah, and the notion that um, you know the fallen angels, say, Lucifer and the and you get into it, in detail in the book, but that it, like, the world is, how they put it, it's kind of a battle between, like, Rex Monday, like king of the earth, and, like, the earth is kind of not so great, but there is the light, there is heaven in a sense. And it seems like, that's the one place where I would, if I was hanging out with Cathars, that I just wouldn't agree. I'm more of, like, the maybe Gnostic, belief that, like, the earth is, Sophia's body, and it loves us and we're a part of it, but um, I just get a feeling when I feel into the Cathars that they didn't, dislike the world. Maybe they just saw it as not the ultimate truth.
Well, I guess when they're being kinder towards Rex Mundi, the Rex Mundi being the Cathar term for the creator deity, the thing that created the material world, the great architect, or the eye in the pyramid, whatever it was that actually built this place. They called it Rex Mundi. I call it Uncle Rex.
Uncle Rex.
Yeah, he keeps in touch.
Yeah.
I tend to think of the world banking system and all the things that take you away from concentrating on spirituality and creativity as being the forces of Uncle Rex, the material world. And life seems to be a constant friction between material need and spiritual yearning, and trying to somehow hit a balance. The Cathars are all about perfection and the notion that you have to try to perfect yourself and do better. Their adepts were called parfaits or perfecti, but I don't think any of them were actually perfect. They were regular, normal people who had to struggle every day to try to do the right thing and try to do it better. But at least it was a genuine desire to better themselves, to try to find a better way. And those essential planks of pacifism, vegetarianism, and equal rights, if not outright feminism, are all tremendously likable and admirable in the 12th century society. Plus, they had a form of democracy going on with elected leadership who acted as an intermediary between the serfs and the aristocracy. So a lot of little brownie points for doing things right, and getting on with the Jewish population and the Muslim population was another big plus for that period, something which, again, catastrophically ended after that point. And quite why the Crusaders under Pope Innocent III felt the need to not only wipe them out, but to exterminate them with such savagery and insane cruelty, and to design deaths for them that were beyond anything anyone had thought of before. I mean, it was about a year into the campaign that they first thought of burning the Cathars. This notion of burning heretics or witches stuck around for hundreds of years. But the savagery that they killed them with, and in Beziers, for instance, they vaporized the entire town. They killed every man, woman, child, and animal in the city. It was the first city they came to. That's when the religious prelate in charge, Arnaud Amaury, when asked how to tell the difference between heretics and Christians, says the famous words, kill them all, God will recognize his own. They just vaporized the place. It was only after about a year of massacring people that they came up with the idea of separating the Christians from the heretics and then burning the heretics. And it was only after about a lifetime of doing it that they came up with the Inquisition, a bureaucratic way of basically tracking the heresy and rooting it out, and not only killing all the heretics, but making certain that you got the names of everyone that they'd spoken to, rooting them out too. And it took about 200 years for them to really kill everyone, to make certain that there were no surviving adepts, no surviving heretics. And then the Inquisition stuck around, and they kept a lid on it for another 500 years or so, by which stage there were it effectively bled into witch hunting, and any sense of an actual organized force vested against Catholicism had long been wiped out. And if they hadn't done that, I think the Holy Roman Church probably would have collapsed, because clearly the heretics have a much better argument, were way more popular, and it was spreading rapidly as a religion. And the notion of the Holy Roman Church being infallible had been overturned by the loss of Jerusalem and the failure of the Crusades. And I think to some extent they felt that unless they were extremely violent and brutal, that they would lose the edge, and that maybe the lefty liberal feminist veggie Cathars would end up ruling Europe. And then maybe the Dark Ages wouldn't have quite happened the same way. It's difficult to extrapolate.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so, I mean, one quick, note that I wrote down about the Cathars, just in like who they, were, like some of their belief was just Cathars were a medieval Christian dualistic movement that believed the material world was evil and created by a malevolent God, while the spiritual world was the creation of a benevolent God. They rejected the Catholic Church's authority and rituals, viewing the body as a prison for the soul and emphasizing a strict ascetic life. Salvation was achieved through a spiritual life and a key ritual called
The Consolament.
Yes. Yeah. And so like I say, when I read about the Cathars, they seem really kind of very aesthetic to kind of like reject. I don't know. It's weird because you can kind of feel a people, even though they're in the past, and they seem like they did like love their planet. They just had I'm still working on understanding their relationship, between like good and evil, kind of.
Well, there's a softer version of it, which says that which does come from some of the Gnostic texts, and which argues that the Rex Mundi, the creator deity, isn't evil, but it's just imperfect.
Yes.
That there was an imperfection in the pleroma there when Rex Mundi was created, that Sophia thought that it was a perfect creation, but in fact Rex Mundi was imperfect and created an imperfect world, but not out of spite, but just because of maybe a fault in the program. In the way the thing was written, and I've also got no clear sense as to whether our consciousness is here by choice or by whether we're condemned to be here. They certainly Catharism incorporates elements of Buddhism. They believed in reincarnation, and they believed that one came back into this world over and over again, and until one was able to perfect oneself and return to the true kingdom of heaven. And so it's a kind of a medieval Christian notion of karma, another Buddhist element. And,
I like that. It's like the Rex Monday would be just like an imperfect architect, and like I think we're talking about like in the pleroma where Sophia, after the creation, realized that there were the archons. I think that they were kind of like a almost like machines, and so they've always been the adversary to the organic, children of Sophia, basically. So it's like that sounds more like, when I think of the Cathars, like their awareness to me seems like that, because it's I just have this just desire to know them, for some reason.
I also had the secret thing, this bit of magic called the Consolamentum.
Yes.
Which no longer exists, apparently. But the Consolamentum was a direct physical initiation, that you had to be touched by an adept who had been touched by another adept, and it was communicated literally by physical contact, through the laying on of hands. From what I understand, when you received the Consolamentum, you're supposed to remember who you really are, and you're liberated from the cycles of time, and you're able to step outside of time, or outside of the confines of this box of the material world we're in. It was a little bit like being hit over the head with an enlightenment stick. This apparently could be from the touch of a hand. The story was that this was a direct initiation that went back to John the Baptist and the Essenes, and whatever proto-Christianity existed beyond them, and it had moved from adept to adept down through the centuries, and this particularly concerned the Inquisitors and the Holy Roman Church, who sought to make certain that they killed every single person who had received the Consolamentum, every single person they'd come into contact with. Very much like a psychoactive virus. They attracted like a virus, and the techniques they used of burning and cauterizing places is similar to what you use when you're dealing with a plague. And it took them a while to do it, but they did it by 1321. Just under 100 years after the fall of Montsegur, they burned the last person to have received the Consolamentum and put the lid on it. So I don't think anyone in the present day has a true knowledge of what this Consolamentum was, and some secret people have tried to rediscover, but it was some kind of a mystery that it seemed to enable these folk to step outside of time, which sounds bizarre, but on the basis of what I've experienced firsthand in Montsegur, there would seem to be some truth to this. And it seems that some of these people do exist outside of time, what we think of as ascended masters. The notion of hidden adepts or hidden imams who are able to somehow reach out to our paradigm, to reach into our consciousness, but seem to have non-linear access to the program, seem to exist outside of the whatever construct or program we're currently playing through. And that's one of the stranger and wilder ideas, I guess, within Catharism, and certainly the subject of much historical debate as people try to wrap their heads around what the Consolamentum might have been.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's kind of like we really don't know, other than it existed, but like what that, I guess, what that ritual was, or what that touch was. That's
they were an initiatory faith, so they had inner secrets, like any initiatory course. They must have been things that you'd have to have become a Cathar or been touched by the other adept, or in order to know. And I don't know what we will not know what their core secrets are. Maybe in our lives. I mean, there's any number of secret societies. I mean, I forget what level you have to get to within Scientology before discovering that the story about Xenu, the galactic warlord. But many faiths have surprising secrets hidden within them.
yes.
I cannot say to know, despite the front cover of my book, what the true secret of the Cathars were. But I certainly think that they got an awful lot of things right. They ticked a lot of boxes, and
they certainly did. Yeah.
There may be some truth to the whole thing, which and if that's the case, what was true in the 12th or the 13th century is true still. Those forces still exist. I mean, a backstory that's been running in the last few years, approximately since the 700th anniversary. We've had a big thing here happen in the south, where the last Cathar to burn, who was a man named Wilhelm Bellybast, who died at the stake in Villa Rouge Termine in 1321, the last man to receive the consolamentum. Belibast, who was certainly not a perfect man, made a prophecy allegedly, where he's before going to the stake, he allegedly said that after 7 centuries, the laurel will turn green again. After 7 centuries, the old ways will return. And that fell due in 2021, now 5 years ago. The 7 centuries were up. And ever since then, all hell has been breaking loose down here. It's largely because of the conservative forces that don't want to see any kind of revival of the Cathar way.
Wow. The laurel turns green again in 7 centuries, and that took place in 2021. Well, a lot of things changed in the beginning of 2020, and oftentimes there is a transit, of time. Something doesn't exactly happen on the day, but the world really began to change in about January, March of 2020.
That's for sure.
Yeah, so something's going on, and these dates aren't exact, of course. I've often found that there's a window of time where you feel that transition, and so that would have been part of it. So,
yeah, and the White Lady generally doesn't tend to show up unless there's going to be some kind of World War II or a calamity or something. That's
and we're there. So,
yeah,
so
I'm not sure that sightings of the White Lady of Montsegur necessarily bode well for instead it's made me feel like hunkering down and getting ready. I have the unpleasant sensation that if this was a book that I'm living through, that I'm about halfway through the first volume of a fucking trilogy. It doesn't feel like anything close to over yet. It still feels like we're halfway through Fellowship of the Ring.
Gosh, and everybody knows that the Twin Towers, that's a slog to get through what's that one? Oh, I forget. Helm's Deep. Yeah, the middle Deep, one.
Where Ralph Bakshi gave up.
Yeah.
Never got further than that in the animated Lord of the Rings. They just ran out of steam.
Yeah. A lot of people don't like Helm's Deep, the middle book, but I liked it. I think it was, I think a lot happened there.
It stands up good, I gotta say. So, a lot of terrible things have been going on out here in the South. And one of the things that's been at the center of that has been a horde of Templar artifacts, which landed round about that time. And I won't bore you with the details, but it's been like that whole plot thread has been like the Maltese Falcon, basically, with any number of different folk jostling to try to get their hands on the Great Whatsit, and any number of casualties along the way. This led to a circumstance 2 months ago. It was in August, where I found myself in the presence of another Grail. This was probably from about 2,000 years ago. It was an obsidian chalice made out of a very beautiful form of obsidian that's been matched to a vein in a quarry near Bethlehem in Israel. This was well pre-Christian, engraved with grapevines, grape leaves, and it was part of a haul of Templar artifacts. All the rest of the artifacts were medieval. They were originally found in the foundations of a hospital in the place called Evora in Portugal. End of the 19th century, they became part of the personal treasures of the Salazar family in the 20th century. And after the death of Salazar, the Portuguese tyrant, they started to leak out onto the black market. This one item in particular predates Christ, so it's believed to be part of the original treasures of the Templar Order that were removed from Temple Mount in Jerusalem during the First Crusade. One small part of what is believed by some to be the treasures of the Temple of Solomon. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And you came in contact with it?
I held it in my hands just the month before last. But even more freaky were the people around the table when I was holding it in my hands. And I can't name them much as I'd like to, but we're talking .com millionaires, one of whom happened to own the IP to hardware my first movie, basically the dark forces that would seek to control our planet. Someone from UNESCO, and a very clean scrubbed kid who was Kevin from Stanford, who was like chairman of the World Zionist Organization, and gave a stirring speech about how this was the most important archaeological find in the history of the state of Israel, because it proves ancient Jewish usage of Temple Mount.
Sounds like Anunnaki Part 2 to me.
Yeah,
but,
I sadly brought it up because it's no different now. What was true then is true now. The same stuff is going on now. I wish it was not. It was not the case. The same choices are put on my table. The same currents are still operational. When you reach towards the Grail, it's like that. And the possession of those objects, it's in Otto Rahn's time. His Grail research would have been used to justify the Holocaust. In our present day, that same Grail research could be used to justify the Palestinian genocide.
yes.
It's terrifying that such a silly thing, a cup, a talismanic power object, could wield such power. And deeply freaky stuff. And underneath it all, I'm going to say this, but because I guess it don't matter. The question that Parsifal's meant to ask is, whom does the Grail serve? Whose cup is it anyway? You got all these different forces that want it.
And that, I would have loved to been at that table and heard the what was going on. That sounds like amazing, scary and amazing. But
very scary. Yeah, there was a file which I copied, and I'm holding it because it turns out that there's really good data on what's under Temple Mount. No one was supposed to be looking there because of some treaty that Moshe Dayan signed back in the 1970s, but nobody actually stuck to the letter of the treaty. So ever since the 1970s, everyone's been digging and X-raying and using ground-penetrating radar, and so it's people kind of know what's underneath Temple Mount by now. It's just classic.
Yeah, I also wonder about just tunnels. I mean, like few people know, even who live in Europe, like the tunnels that the underground cities that the Nazis made during the war. I mean, the first jet fighter, the V2, all kinds of stuff, was built in underground bunkers, that were huge. I mean, some are destroyed, some are filled with water, some haven't been found yet, but they're massive, and there's many. So it seems to me like we had the technology to have just, from a distance, dug a tunnel to it and looked. If somebody really wanted to and they happen to have $1 billion to spare, they probably could have done it. And I bet it's been done. I bet it's hollow under there.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even need $1 billion. Ground penetrating radars, you can get on a daily hire. It's expensive, but it's amazing how how many of these mysteries are kept mysteries deliberately
Yes.
by the dark forces that would seek to rule our planet, that deliberately don't want us to know what's underneath Montsegur, what's underneath Temple Mount, or even what's underneath Rennes le Chateau. Ground penetrating radar is a thing. We have ways of scanning the POG. We could easily resolve what's underneath the Grail Castle, because something's inside that mountain.
Oh yeah.
There's a huge, big part of the story which has never been found. I mean, hundreds of people died at Montsegur, but to date, only 2 skeletons have been retrieved from the site. None of the other human remains have ever been found. Even burning people, you couldn't really destroy their teeth. During the siege itself, where did they put the bodies? So until the Cathar necropolis, or the burial site on Montsegur, is found, the POG hides its mysteries, including most of its occupants. Another crazy thing about the Montsegur story is just how many of the principal figures in the story disappear into thin air. Are historical personages who are born, live, have children, are famous, but then come to Montsegur and just drop out of the historic record. The historians say it's because the Cathars had a habit of hiding the deaths of their leadership, so that their bodies wouldn't fall into the hands of the inquisitors or the crusaders. But there's Esclamond de Foix, the last and greatest of the Cathar high priestesses, is, according to legend, supposed to have never died, but to have passed alive into the kingdom of heaven, and to have effectively ascended like Christ or the prophet Elijah. The sense that, I mean, we don't know what happened to any of the last heads of the Cathar Church. Where we don't know what happened to Guillaume de Castries, Archbishop Tento. Half the people who are running the Cathar Church at the time of the fall just seem to disappear out of recorded history. So again, an argument for ground penetrating radar on Montsegur to resolve the issue of what's really inside the mountain. In terms of my take on the situation currently unfolding in the Holy Lands, there are 2 temples underneath El Aqsa Mosque. There's foundation ruins. The first, the one closest to the surface is Roman era. The Wailing Wall is the outermost part of the Roman era constructions and is not the outermost wall of the Temple of Solomon. And beneath that is an octagonal construction, which is potentially the remains of the Temple of Asherah that stood there in Canaanite times. And my personal belief is that the folks settling there thought the mountain was unclean because of its association with Asherah and the Canaanites. And if the Temple of Solomon existed at all, then it's potentially on the slopes of Mount Moriah, not underneath El Aqsa Mosque. I think that's my take on whom does the Grail serve. I think the relics unearthed by the Templars belong to a Roman era divinity, and beneath that, Asherah is probably another take on Ishtar or Isis, on the mother goddess. And I think it's the same mother goddess who was worshipped on mountaintops since ancient times, and it's her Godam cup.
Yes, and one little excerpt here. At Mount Segur, writes Nigel Pennick. It was in 1244, the heretical Cathars had made their last heroic stand against the Catholic Crusade, which finally triumphed in their destruction. Here, tradition affirms that on the night before the final assault, 3 Cathars carrying the sacred relics of the faith slipped unnoticed over the wall. They carried away the magical regalia of the that guy, King Dagobert, II, and the cup reputed to be the Holy Grail. So, have you ever, are you aware? I'm sure you are, but like, did the Cathars, or you know, basically ever possess the Grail, and then before the end they simply left? I mean, uh,
Well, we know there was a treasure at Montsegur. We know that the Cathars had a treasure. We don't know exactly what the treasure was. There's a surviving letter written by the last head of the Cathar church to the Lord of Montsegur, when he requests permission to come to the castle and says, please, can we come and take refuge in your castle and bring with us the treasures of our faith to be stored there infra castrum. He uses this word infra castrum. We do not know what that means. It could mean under the castle, under the aegis of the castle. Anyway, the letter asking permission for the treasures of their faith to be moved from Albadun in the Ode, where they were where the letter was written, 2 months ago, a few years prior to the siege, indicates that the treasures of their faith were moved there. Then it comes down to what were the treasures of their faith, and as a religion based on spirit. Pure spirit and pure light. I don't think that they had any tradition of venerating objects in the same way as the Catholic Church. And I suggest that the treasures of their faith would have been, first of all, potentially books. There is a lost book of the Cathars which has never been found, which we know existed. We don't know what it was. It was some form of Gnostic gospel, or some version of the Bible now lost to us, because we have never successfully proven any book to have been the book of the Cathars, the book of love, the book of Nicetas. So there was that. Then we also know they had gold, quite a lot of it, because they paid for people's services right up to the end. There were quite large transactions going on. A few months prior to the fall of Montsegur, 150 gold ingots are transferred into the coffers of one of the Aragonese militia leaders. So we know they had gold ingots, what they called livre Melgorian, the fiscal treasure of the church, which I guess was the part of the hope that once the persecution was over, they might be able to restart the faith. So there was, and where there's gold, there's treachery, and where kingdoms change hands and there's a lot of gold, there's nearly always some kind of Kelly's Heroes kind of backstory going on. So I don't doubt that during the siege, people were preoccupied with trying to get the treasure out and save or steal the gold in any way they could. When the Crusaders took the castle and arrived, nothing was found. The place had been, the treasuries were completely empty. Everything, whatever potential treasure was there, had been completely removed. As for the existence of the Grail, as part of that treasure, it's mysterious. There's nothing really in surviving records of the Cathar Church to suggest that such a thing would exist or even matter to them. I mean, beyond all else, they didn't really believe that Christ had ever really existed, or at least not as a physical figure. It seemed like a complete contradiction in terms to them, that God would come in material form to begin with. So why they would venerate the cup of Christ doesn't make any kind of theological sense. I've often wondered whether the Grail wasn't there all along, since before they got there. Because there's been something on that mountain since before the beginning of recorded history. It was already a ruin before the Cathars got there. It was a ruin by 1205, when the great Esclamond advises the Lord of Montsegur to refortify the old ruin on the top of the mountain and get ready for the siege. So there was always something there. It was always a sacred place. This meteoric Grail, the black stone that Otto Rahn and his mentor Gadal removed from the cave in the Ariège back in the 1930s would seem to be local. It would say it's part of this place. It's the heart of the mountain, or the Pyrenean Grail. I don't feel it's got anything to do with the with Christ and the Holy Lands, but whether there was a magic stone or a heart of the mountain or something like your Arkenstone in the Hobbit that was always there on the Pog and wasn't part of the sacred treasure of the Cathars, but which was smuggled out at the end of along with the rest of it at the end of the siege. That's something to speculate over. And the other part of it that's so weird is that none of the stuff's ever been properly found.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the lost book of the Cathars, the book of the Seven Seals, or the Book of Love was part of their treasure and then smuggled out, then it didn't seem to, something seems to have gone wrong, because it didn't survive. If that book had survived, then I guess the mission would have been successful. But I sometimes wonder if Brother Matthias or Emil Eckhart or some of those guys who went down the sheer side of the mountain on the rope, I sometimes wonder if they all made it. I think about Brother Matthias wrapping the sacred book of the Cathars around himself, and then the rope snapping and him just dropping into a crevice, and the mountain keeping him. Whether that stuff actually left months ago, or is still there under the mountain, I don't know. There's a myth that the folk who smuggled the treasure out and some of the survivors of the castle escaped over the Tabor, over the Pic de Saint Barthélemy, and down into the valley of Ussat, where they took refuge in the caves, which were a sanctuary for fleeing heretics. And in this myth, the people who escaped into the caves are sealed alive into the caves by Crusader troops who are too frightened to go and don't want to go. You honestly can't get at people in a cave. They can easily kill you if you have to crawl in. And the story is that they brought down the mountain on the entrance of the cave and pitched camp there instead, and waited to make certain no one escaped. Thus, again, shoring up this idea that somewhere underneath the mountains are these the last of the Cathars, or the sleeping knights, or the treasure of Montsegur, which is similar to the Arthurian stories you get in England, with sleeping knights and the Arthur's treasure being under every other hill. So a general sense that if there's a grail or a stone that's within the mountain, it seems to be a part of the protective energy of this place. I think rather than than a relic of Christianity.
Yeah, I mean, and when you have a cave, like a naturally occurring hole, if you do basically just cover it in rocks and dirt, or if you can, cave that, whatever, you obscure it, I mean, it does truly disappear before much time, So if there was a cave or caves and there were artifacts, whether the Crusaders knew it or not, if they plugged those caves up one way or the other, you give it like a generation, no one would ever even know it's there. You would have nothing to even see it with. It would just be a part of a hill. So I mean, they definitely, that myth to me kind of holds up in some ways as a possibility. Definitely.
Yeah, it's oft repeated, and the thing with the story of Montsegur is it wasn't that long ago, 7 centuries ago. But it's a blink in time compared to the 2,000 years, the story of Christ, or all the time that's passed since Masada or Thermopylae, both similar battles. It's not that long ago, and things continue to resonate in the popular psyche. So myths, stories that are passed down in families from one generation to another do carry an element of truth. There's very little population mobility in the area. I mean, Montsegur was cut off from the outside world until the 1960s. And the first tar road into the valley was constructed in the mid 1960s. So very little population mobility, and you can see with the families in the area just how many of them are directly descended from the people who were there at the time of the siege. Many of the family names figure on the Inquisition lists of the people burned and arrested. And stories like that and echoes of what happened naturally get passed on for a few generations. So some part of it survives in the within the myth.
Yeah, and that preserves a real sense of place, which to me is a bit of a divine protection, yeah, right there, because it's something that we're losing in the world, is a sense of place. Um, like here in the States, it used to be that different states had a place. Like Tennessee was much different than Florida and Pacific Northwest. A place had an energy if you respect it, if you felt it. Like here in the Arizona desert, it's a desert, but it's a very powerful place, and everything is becoming just a gray blob. So a place in this world that still has like a few centuries of place of people is, I think it's very rare. I mean, I'd have to note that's not common anymore.
Well, it's a bit of an aberration, and Montsegur has been kept a secret on purpose as well.
Yes.
It's happened because of the region's history of underdevelopment. It's been slighted by both the French Republic and cursed by the Holy Roman Church. So it's been kind of cut off from the world and ignored for probably a good thing for quite a lengthy period of time. And as a result, some of the stuff still feels fresh.
Yes.
It also it's something about the place itself, I guess, where it feels like time overlaps anyway. But
Yes.
it's super hard to even walk down the street of the village without passing. I've seldom gone to the local epicery to the one shop in town without having at least passing or having at least one conversation myself about what happened in 1244.
Yes.
The presence of that period of time is remarkably strong. Like there's centuries, there's lots of other centuries of history that float around. I mean, out here we've had religious wars and Napoleon, any number of other things people could be obsessed with. But something like a dream that's caught on endless repeat means that the events of March 16th to 1244 are still very strong in people's consciousness in the region. It's surely not forgotten.
Oh, and it really speaks to me what you're saying about, in 700 years or 7 centuries, the laurel will turn green again. And I feel it. I think it's very aware in the world right now. And I think maybe it's why, Otto Rahn is back, and you're part of that, and you're kind of a knight of the mountain. Is It's just time, like, and it's auspicious, and it's also a bit dreadful, but I'm glad. I'm happy to be here at this time, and in a way part of it. And I think that Indiana Jones, the movie, the Raiders of the Lost Ark, I only kind of like the first one. After that, it just kind of, it was they made money, whatever. But the first one, I think we have that movie, and I think people are so drawn to it. Why people still watch it. It's that we know, you know, like I think people are looking for something. Like the 1244 is still alive. And do you ever get that feeling that I just feel like, Indiana Jones, it's people still watch it, and when they watch it, like they want a different reality. You know what I mean? It alters the people that are watching it. I would have liked to seen it when it was first run in the movie theater, but I didn't, but I bet you would have felt some of those relics kind of in the air.
Yeah, I mean, also with the base Cathar ideology, this notion that we're living in an illusion. Uh,
Yes.
Often there's this funny relationship between movies and real life and
Yes.
fiction. I mean, I've noted before that the closer you get into it, often fictional things turn out to be more real than real life, and real life has a habit of turning out to be fiction. The barriers between these things are really unstable.
Yes.
And I keep noticing it running different plot arcs. Like when it got to this thing with the multinational mining company finding this hitherto unidentified mineral element that happens to be
Yes. Oh gosh, I forgot
pure
about
white
that.
stone underneath the mountain. It's like, hang on, it's the plot of Dune. It's the plot of Avatar. It's
Oh.
like the plot of Fern Gully. It's like, and you're running this for real. It keeps like, I mean, I should say that when my encounter with the Grail in August this year, when that cup was on the table, that happened in Bromsgrove in Derbyshire, in England, and Bromsgrove's where J.R.R. Tolkien grew up. Seeing the cup on the table in Middle England with all these shadowy individuals gathered around it, trying to decide on something that held power over a conflict going on the other side of the world in Jerusalem. It couldn't help but remind me of. I felt I was in Bag End in the Shire in Middle England, and I felt I was halfway through the first volume of a goddamn trilogy. Just like the White Castle of Montsegur and the Dark Castle of the Schloss Wewelsburg. It's difficult to get away from the uncomfortable sensation that we're, as ever, born into this life in order to be alive at the stage, and in order to be here for this confrontation between the forces of spirit, the forces of the vengeful, patriarchal one god of the three monotheisms who are doing really badly at the moment. I think Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all need to take a rain check. There's other strange gods waiting in line. It's maybe there's a reason that we're here. I'm not sure what that reason is, because in Cathar terms, it's a medieval faith, so it's very harsh. They're very into asceticism. It kind of makes you give up everything. I mean,
I wonder. I wonder if it's time of like the neo Cathar. You know what I mean? Like what would the new Cathar up to date look like? And I think about Stuart Wilde. Great spiritual character, wrote some amazing books. He wrote like Silent Power and such. You may have heard of him, but he had a term called the fringe dweller. You live like in and out of society. You live on the fringe of it, and you're in the other realm. Like you're working on your self-awareness, your presence, but you're also in the world. And so to be of the world, but not in the world, but not of it. And I think he called that fringe dwellers. And I think that's kind of like the modern, maybe like Neo Cathar. I humbly would say that, because you are on that quest. And it seems to me like the Grail is a quest. There's physical objects, but now that we're just talking about Raiders of the Lost Ark, when they found the Lost Ark, when they found the Ark, those of ill intent, when it was opened, were wiped out, but those of good intent survived. And maybe in a sense, when I feel this like Helm's Deep moment, it's like you've got different armies and different schools of thought, marching towards the Grail, and it will take care of business. I don't know, just a wild thought that I've got.
Well, it feels like I mean, I noticed that in terms of pursuing the Cathar faith and trying to experience a kind of version of Catharism without access to the Consolamentum, neo-Catharism, the two things that remain unchanged through time are the cycles of the sun and the moon and the places. The Holy Roman Church and the Inquisition could not vaporize Montsegur. They could not drain the Lake of the Druids. The places still exist. The stones still exist, and the sun and the moon still rise and set in the same places, and it's possible to still align yourself to those currents and to experience
Yes.
some small part of it. The textbooks, the dogma, and the structure and the hierarchy might be gone, but some essence remains, which is still possible to connect with. And some of the medieval methods, which we're talking fasting and giving up meat and making pilgrimage, to do something just as simple as walking the Compostela route, walking 1,000 kilometers. You can't help but be changed by it. You climb a mountain like the Tabor, 3,500 meters to the Devil's Lake or the Lake of the Druids. The experience itself is transformative, but it will bring you to your knees in the course of that. It's part of the process. It's medieval. In order to earn it, you do have to walk the whole way. You can't cheat and secretly catch a bus, and it will rain on you. You will give up all faith in everything at some point. have to keep going. I think any medieval path is a bit like that. It's naturally going to challenge you. It's the point of how far that it's prepared to go in terms of and how far you're prepared to go in terms of making that leap of faith. It seems in the Cathar terms, the opposition is always when you frustrate it long enough, seems to usually arrive at that final point where it says you either recant and stop what you're doing, or we will kill you. In the past, the martyrs, many of them chose to die at the stake rather than recant. Maybe Otto Rahn was offered that same choice from Heinrich Himmler and the Nazis and flubbed it and went, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'll sign my name here. I'll go along with it."
Yes.
It was destroyed by that decision. Ditto the choices and we face in the present day and their consequences. It seems that it puts it to you in one way or another, and how much you'll have to give up in order to stand by that faith is something that's I think tested on a daily basis.
Yes, it certainly is. Yeah. Well, Richard Stanley, I had you for 2 hours. I don't want to keep you all night. I think we covered a lot of ground. This was great. And your new book, Richard Stanley, it's Otto Rahn, Grail Hunter, The Secret of the Cathars and the Return of the White Lady. And one of the things about the book is that it is only the beginning of a journey. Now I have Otto Rahn's books, and I didn't get a chance to read them before this, but I will read them now, and I've been studying, World War II history and Germanic history for a long time. And this only expounds on all of that. And so I hope people get it and read it. If it's on Kindle, it's paperback. The Audible is absolutely great.
I'm trying to go to the places. I put a lot of maps in there, a lot of place names and a lot of photographs of places in order to try and deliberately encourage people to go to the places themselves, to experience it firsthand, because that's the essence of Gnosticism, is to seek firsthand knowledge of the mysteries.
Yes.
Go to the place and touch it for yourself.
And you're a guide there, right? Where you're living. Are you? If I understood correctly, at some point you mentioned that you were a guide of the castle.
I was. I used to do that more in the old days. I try not to anymore because the consequences are always so distressing.
Okay.
In that I showed a lot of people places that I should never have shown to anyone.
I understand. Yeah,
I ended up regretting it quite a few times, and I'm cautious. But people still come, still want to know where certain caves and different places are. And there's places that are hard to get into. I call this whole region the zone. Which is a term borrowed from a Russian book, Roadside Picnic. and it's the basis for the Andrei Tarkovsky movie Stalker. But basically, there's a large region where everything is a little off. As in the Tarkovsky movie Stalker, there's certain people that stalkers who can find their way in and out of the zone and who know where those places are. It is possible to make money doing that, and you can take people into places where there's a good chance that they're going to have a supernatural encounter or find something. Yeah, there's always consequences of doing that. It's like people, supernatural occurrences don't always have the desired effect. In a small proportion of folk, it really goes to their egos and goes to their heads, and they start thinking that they must be chosen in order to communicate a great message, or to to be the true incarnation of Mary Magdalene, or the one who's there to overthrow the Holy Roman Church, or
and or and it's always so grand. They're always, King Tut, Cleopatra, or like Heinrich Himmler or something. It's always quite great. That's when I can usually tell it's coming from the ego, and not really.
So I try to be careful about who I take into the zone these days. It's been tricky, so I don't do. I guess I'd be mischaracterized as a tour guide, but like Otto Rahn, I do have a good nose for a weird place, and
it makes sense.
It's also been one of my strengths as a filmmaker, in that I've generally been able to recognize a good location and know where to put the camera. So in terms of times of year and optimum places to position yourself on the I've got Halloween coming up now, just around the corner. I'm fairly good at that.
Well, so and I agree. And go to the places. It's important, and depending on the altruism of your intent, when you're there, maybe you'll come across Richard Stanley, and maybe you'll take a walk up to the castle. I don't know. See what happens. But it's been great talking to you. Thank you for coming and talking about everything. People can find you. You're on Facebook. Also, you have a website. It's the official richardstanley.com. It's all in the show notes, but if you search for Richard Stanley on Facebook, you'll find it, or go to the official richardstanley.com. If you honestly just put Otto Rahn, search for that on Amazon, the book will come up. And definitely start there. You've definitely gotten us through chapter 1. No, I'm sorry. Book 1 of the trilogy. Now it's our turn to do chapter 2. And I hope book 2, the Helm's Deep. I hope to see you again sometime. Thank you so much for being on.
Indeed, sir. Stay strong out there.
You too.
Pleasure.